Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to another special episode of the Strength Coach Podcast. I'm here with Vince Gabriel, founder of Gabriel Fitness Performance and Fitness Business University.
All right, that's good.
As well as KISS Marketing.
No, that's good. We're done.
9 fitness-related books?
Oh, no.
Big book. Big book of marketing. We do this every month. Now, listen, we used to do a segment on the show, but we just felt like these were just to get. Vince has so much information that he likes to get out, and it is hard for him because he does like ramble on. So the 5-minute thing, he always went over. It gave me agita. So we've been doing this anyway, and this is
I got fired. I got pulled.
We both have a lot of fun doing this, and you know.
Well, you do know that TED Talks are supposed to be 20 minutes, right?
18. You can never do one.
And do you know how long Tony Robbins' TED Talk was?
No.
It was like 28 minutes. It was hilarious. But the whole time, it's like at the end, the whole last 10 minutes of it, he's like apologizing for going over, and then he just keeps going and going, won't stop. It's hilarious. The Tony Robbins TED Talk is amazing. It's really good.
You know, look, it's not just here on the podcast. Last year in Chicago, Vince and I, for whatever reason, like 3 times now, we've been like back to back at Perform Better. And, you know, in the summits. And this year, we're both actually going to be in Long Beach as well. We're not back to back this year, though. But last year, I mean, he had like 75 slides. He got through like 3 of them. You know, so it's not just me, everybody. It's just Vince and you know, so yeah, Vince, we are doing, well, speaking of Perform Better, we're doing you have a couple, you have Providence and Long Beach at the summits this year. Perform Better just announced it for all the lineups and everything. And you're actually going to do a Perform Better workshop all on your own in Rhode Island at the Perform Better facility, which, by the way, I'm really glad. And that's what I'm excited about. Like this year, there's Long Beach, right? Again, we're both there. Because last year there was no Long Beach. So slowly we're getting back to, and there's been more seminars, in-person seminars coming up. And you got this one coming up. Pretty excited about us really like kind of getting back to, we're finally getting back to the real in-person stuff.
Yeah, no, and you make the point of like not having enough time, and there's just so much knowledge I've acquired over just being a student of the business game, you know, for so long. And everyone knows my story. I'm not like some business guy, you know, that is just been teaching gym owners my whole life. Like I've lived every tale of this story, you know, as an intern at Fitness Quest, to a trainer, to an independent contractor as a trainer, to a gym owner. And now I'm teaching business, you know, but like the knowledge I've acquired over 22 years is just so like, it's vast. And I just have so many stories and so many examples. I can't teach what I want to teach. And even, I mean, obviously we have an hour on this podcast. You gave me 5 minutes before, which was a joke. We got an hour on this podcast, and Perform Better, we only get 75 minutes, you know? Yeah. And it's just like, yeah. And I know a good speaker can get the point across in 75 minutes and blah, blah, blah. Right. But I'm excited. And that's why I went to Chris and said, I want to go deep into business with gym owners. And so I'm teaching this 2-day workshop at the Perform Better headquarters, which is freaking really cool because they have like a whole setup there. They got the gym, but then they also got like this conference room that's super awesome setup for seminars and things like that. So I'm going to be doing, you know, 2 full days on business. I'm bringing some of my friends with me. So my head of agency, KISS Marketing, Will Matheson, will be there. One of my prized students, Devin Gage, will also be speaking. Devin started his gym. Pretty much, I started working with him when he was like 22 years old or something like that, really young. And he was, at the time when he owned a gym, he was working in a ballet shoe factory or something like that. And like was working he had a gym. He was working in a ballet shoe factory, and then was doing in-home personal training. I think he was just like all over the place. And now he's got like $1 million gym. He opened up three new gyms last year. He's got this new concept. It's not a franchise, but he's, growing these small locations all over the Pennsylvania area. So he'll be with me. And so I'm bringing my friends with me, but we're going to go deep dive 2 full days into it. So I'm super excited.
Very cool. Wait, it's May 5th and 6th, and there is an early bird registration. Do you know when date that ends?
I want to say April 1st.
Okay, cool.
I think that's correct.
Okay. Well, we'll obviously we're going to get this out next week, so we'll have those dates. But I just wanted to get that out there that it's May 5th and 6th in Rhode Island. Early bird. There is early bird pricing. And you guys will have you'll be able to take advantage of that. So Vince, so you got a couple speakers with you, thank God. Nobody wants to hear you all day. But what now it is split into 2 days, which I love, because then you could really kind of dive deep, focus on different things in those days. Let's dive into what you're going to be talking about.
Yeah. But the first thing I wanted to share the story on this podcast, and I think I've told it other places, but I haven't told it here. And that is, we talk about Perform Better, and obviously you and I are, Perform Better guys. We've been going to the summits for so long. We're now speakers on the summit. But it's a very interesting story, because a lot of the guys that are in my mastermind, they ask me about, having a meeting with the Godfather, and speaking at Perform Better. So I get asked a lot about, well, what do you got to do? And it's like, oh, it's really easy. You just, go to the summits for 15 years, be a client for Perform Better for another 15 years, bring bags of cash and give them to Poirier. No, okay.
But essentially, because you have to spend a certain amount of money over those years in your gym.
I do not think that's true.
No.
Chris is one of the greatest people I know. But the real story is I got to the point where I was like, all right, it took a long time for me to get the confidence to even think I belonged on that stage. Right. Because the first time I went, these people are like gods, as a young trainer, you're looking at Thomas Plummer and Greg Cook and Boyle. And I'm just like they're larger than life people. And for the first 5, 6, 7 years, you didn't even imagine that it was a possibility to be on that stage. Now I wanted it, right? I wanted it. I was in the back of my mind, I want to be out. I want to be out there speaking. But then after a while, you start helping people. I was helping, gym owners and having some success in the consulting world. And I was like, okay, I think it's time for me to start the push to try and get on the Perform Better tour. Because I had recently just gotten randomly selected to speak at IDEA, which is it was a big deal. I spoke at the IDEA World Convention in Vegas, and I literally was the most unqualified speaker, by every case of the word. It was amazing. But I knew someone that was putting this talk together, and someone bailed out last minute, and I got a speaking spot, and it was just a massive stage. I'm talking big deal. Darren Hardy was the headliner of it, and I'm speaking, and it was pictures. It was me and 8 people, and it was Darren Hardy was one person. Yeah, Durkin, who was speaking, who was another, and there was these big time people on the stage. I'm like, oh my God. I was I don't know, Rigsby was on there, Pat. And I was just, I totally don't belong here, but anyway, I got it. And so that kind of started to draw some attention. I ended up speaking at MindBody and things like that. So then I was like, it's time to go. So I called my friend Charlie Weingroff, and I said, Charlie, I want to speak on the Perform Better tour. What do I need to do? And he basically said, well, you need to go talk to Chris. And so I flew to, he's like, I was like, when's the next summit? He was like, it's in Chicago. I was like, when is it? He's like, it's in 3 days. So I was like, I booked a flight, and I brought Big Tom with me. And of course, when you fly Big Tom, you got to fly him first class because he can't fit in those regular seats. Right. So me and Big Tom went, cost me an arm and a leg to bring him. but it was actually a really fun thing. And I went, and Chris obviously, introduced me, and I talked to Chris, and I think I had to like send him a video or something. Well, anyway, so we met with Chris at the social, and then Tom and I are sitting at the bar and we're having a drink, and the Perform Better crew comes up and they're like, they call us over and we start, having drinks with them. And so we're like, all right, cool. And then they go to leave because they were going to dinner. And they asked us, like, hey, you guys got plans for dinner? I'm like, no, we're just going to stay here. And they're like, you want to come? It's like, all right, yeah. And so we come, and we ended up going to this German restaurant, which I think, have you ever been there with us, the German place?
No, last year Chicago was the first time I went. Now it's closed.
Right. We tried to go last year, but it's closed. It's closed down. So anyway, I don't remember exactly who was there, but it was like, it was, I know I'm positive Charlie was there. I'm positive. I'm pretty sure Martin, I think, yeah, I definitely remember Martin Rooney was there because we were comparing wounds when we were there. But anyway, so this German restaurant, they have these waitresses that come around with these paddles, right? And what they do is they like bend you over the table, and then they take a running start and smack you on the ass for the paddle. And like everyone's drinking and yelling and screaming and all that, right? And so the lady comes to our table, and Poirier goes over and points at me and goes, "Vince, get up here." And I'm like, oh man, this is going to be crazy. And so I'm bent over the table, and Poirier, he locks eyes with me, and he's like, "This is it, Vince. This is it. You want to speak on this tour? You better take this like a man." And I'm just like this. And I'm like, all right, my whole life flashing through my eyes. I'm like, all right, if I take this like a man and don't flinch, I'm going to get on the Perform Better tour. And if I, act like, some of the other people didn't squirm and whine and cry like a baby, I'm not that. So, and they had already earned their spots, so they were all right. So I didn't earn my spot. So Poirier's locking eyes with me, and I'm locking eyes with him. And this lady takes a running start and smacks me in the ass as hard as she can with this paddle. And we have video footage of this, and you can hear it, like it's loud. And I did not move. And then she goes again, and she goes, whack, and then she goes one more time. And then she's realizing that she did not make me flinch the first two times. So this third time, she's literally winding up big and strong to try it. And then third one, like big, like real big. And everyone's like, oh, that was a big one. And I had Poirier's eyes locked on me, and I could not move and not flinch. So I was in a lot of pain, but I held it together. And here I am, man, 4 years later on the tour, still speaking. So it's like, I love that. I love telling that story. It's such a fun story.
I saw video. Wait, you posted some video from that too, right?
Yes.
At last year's, at your talk last year. So I think, you're going to go over 7 profit drivers, but you need to have 8 things. I think it should be 8 things you need to do to make money at your gym. And that should be number 1.
Yeah, it's a bit of toughness, but honestly, there's so many stories wrapped up in that story, right? And you could listen to that story, and you can say, what are the things that someone needs to do to take it to the next level in their life? And I always talk about this, but like the ask principle. Right. The ask principle. Like I'm not here if I don't ask to speak. Like Chris ain't like Chris wasn't banging down my door. It's like, Vince, you gotta come speak. You're so good. Not a shot. Like I had to go there and fly to Chicago, and I had to ask. And it's all about that. And it's all about the connections and the connections you build over time. So Charlie Weingroff is not a person that spreads out his stamp of approval lightly. It's actually a pretty hard thing to do, but I had a long relationship with Charlie. I had referred him and a lot of clients for physical therapy, right? So we had built a trust and rapport. Same thing with a lot of different people, like Boyle and all that, right? And so it was this, time of fostering and building relationships that, hey, all of a sudden it's like tomorrow you're on the tour, but they don't see the last 15 years of networking and the last 15 years of showing up and buying their and supporting them, buying their stuff, right? I've every Mike Boyle product known to man, right? I've attended every plumber seminar. I attended all Martin Rooney stuff, right? I was a loyal follower and loyal client. And so there's a lot of lessons rolled up in the story, but it's always a fun one to tell.
You know what? I 100%. First of all, you got to build those relationships, because I guarantee you, Chris called Mike Boyle. and said, have you heard of Vince Gabriel? And you had already been on our site for a while, like contributing, had a couple articles. You had gone up to Boyle's. You knew Boyle. Like Mike knew you as a good guy. And so I guarantee you Chris called Mike, whether you know it or not. So you got the recommendation, because Chris isn't going to go by one recommendation.
True.
And then, you put there, you build a rapport with them too. When you're going up there all the time, now, Aaron and Rob and Jamie, and you start to know everybody, and they start to say, oh yeah, Vince, he's always been a good guy. He's never caused any trouble except at the social, once in a while. But that's Tom, actually.
Well, there is a funny Milani story. When I was we were at a Rigsby workshop in 2009. This was when I first started, and I sat at the bar with Milani for 6 hours, and we just drank bourbon. That was my first time drinking bourbon in Kentucky, and I have never been so blackout drunk in my entire life. And me and Milani, every time I see Milani, we still talk about that day. But it's hey, sometimes it's stuff like that. It creates relationships, builds rapport. I'm not saying, hey, if you're not a drinker, and honestly, I actually haven't drank in 100 days. So I'm on a very nice hiatus from it, and I actually feel really good, to be honest. But hey, it's all that hangover was worth it.
Yeah. The first time with Mike, when I did Functional Strength Coach 1, and then when I went to Perform Better, it was all about, Mike's afterwards, hey, who's coming to the bar? And I was one of the latest. I stayed the latest with him, and we built a relationship, and same thing at Chris's house. So anyway, that should be 9 things now.
Right.
The German restaurant story, and then drinking. Maybe you can bring, everybody gets a bottle of bourbon when you go to this Perform Better workshop.
It's an interesting point though, because, I happen to believe that a lot of gyms fail because they try to rely on their digital marketing for success. And I think that there's not enough emphasis and effort put into the local relationship, the relationship with the people down the street, the salons, the physical therapists, the chiropractors, right? And that's all relationship building. And I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, I reached out and I tried and I didn't do it. And then they didn't want to do anything with me, so I didn't try again. And I think that's it's such an important, to tie this back to marketing, right? Or tie this back to business building for our listeners, right? Some of these relationships take a really long time to foster, right? It's you're making investments in other people. You can't just show up. I didn't show up on the first day and say, hey, Chris, do you think I can speak? Right? It was this investment of time and effort and energy and care and gratitude, right? Gratitude. It's a really, really important thing to show and demonstrate of gratitude for people, that they think you're a good person because of that, right? So all of these things relate to the local level. So someone listening to this that wants to grow their personal training business or wants to grow their gym, it's these are relationships that need to be built on a local level. And a lot of times they take time to foster over the long haul.
Yeah. And you really hit that home last episode as well, when you were talking about all the different contacts and the
I have no idea what the hell we talked about last episode. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Last time was about reaching out to those former clients, right? And so, but also not just reaching out to those former clients, but keeping your list warm, because sometimes it takes 100 weeks for someone to buy. There's only some people buy in the first 100 days, but then there's a big percentage that'll buy in that first 100 weeks. So like you said, or you keep saying, is building that, keep working on those things, and they're going to pay off.
Yep. Cool.
All right. Well, let's go over, just give people some high level overviews of the 7 profit drivers. Really, people want to know what you're going to be talking about with this.
Yep. Yeah, no. And obviously too, I want to, when we do the workshop and Perform Better, it's going to be a more of an intimate environment where we're going to be, we can't answer a ton of questions at the Perform Better seminars, right? It's just we're on a pace and we got to finish by a certain time, right? But I'm definitely wanting this one to be directed towards what does the audience need. But I'm going in with somewhat of a plan of what do you guys struggle with most, right? And I do know that, hey, making money is a big problem. People want to make more money in this business, and there is a certain set of skills that are very different than the skills you have as a trainer that are required to know to make money. And so if you could like roll it up and say, that's what I'm going to be teaching. Those are the 7 profit drivers. I'm going to be teaching what are the business skills you need to have a successful business, because I wish that the training skills that you have would be the only thing you needed to create a successful business. And that is not true. Right. It'll take you to a certain point. It will 100% take you to a certain point. But what I think it will take you towards is a decent job. That's what I feel like it will take you. It will take you towards a decent job where you're still having to work a lot and you're still have to do take a lot of the stuff. And you kind of don't get to enjoy the fruit of being a business owner when you don't acquire these business skills. Okay. So the overall skill is the ability to make money, right? That is the scoreboard in business. Call it what you want. Call it, say, hey, we're going to try and change 1,000 lives and all this and that. And that's fine. And that's all well and good. And I want you to do that. But at the end of the day, there's a scoreboard in business, and the scoreboard in business is money. And it's just like, let's just like cut the bullshit, right? And just be like, this is the real scoreboard. This is how we keep score. There's a scoreboard on the board in football, and it gets kept track with points. The points for a gym owner is money. And so that's what we got. So the number one thing that I'm going to focus on, they're all important, right? But I will hammer on price, because I think price is one of the portions of the business that people leave the most money on the table. And the reason why has nothing to do with anything other than the psychology of the owner. Price is such an internal thing. We have this feeling and fear about price, and we're charging too much money, or we have guilt about charging too much money, and we don't want to raise the prices and all of that. And what I'll be talking about is the mindset around price, and that a poorly priced business is not good for the owner. It is not good for the staff, and it is not good for the employees or for the members. Right? Because if the owner is financially strapped, it can't invest in the team. Right? And if it can't invest in the team, it also definitely can't invest into the members. So that's the number one thing that I'm going to really hammer home is, how much should you be charging? How to figure it out? And what are the mindset that you need to have to be able to take the amount of money you're charging now and increase it? Right? And, do I think that, you should increase the amount of money that your members are paying right now? Yes, I do. And that's kind of a bold statement, and that's kind of against what a lot of people have said. But I believe that, hey, Starbucks raised my coffee. I used to pay $2.50 for a cup of coffee, and now I pay $3.50 for a cup of coffee, right? And that's Starbucks, and they didn't give me any more value at all. There's no more value that I got. If anything, the service is less and less. I mean, I was at Starbucks yesterday, and they were the 2 women behind the counter, super nice, super sweet. But you can tell a Starbucks employee, here's what happens to them. Their first week they're there, they're the happiest person in the world. And I'm working at Starbucks. Oh, I get health insurance. Oh, I'm going to go to college. Oh, I'm this day. And then you mark my words, 4 weeks later, they are the most miserable son of a bitch on the planet. Right? Because what do they got to do? They got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they got to get to Starbucks, and all of a sudden the health insurance is not worth it. All of a sudden this woman working at the counter, she had her daughter with her, and her daughter's sitting in the lobby of the Starbucks because I guess she had to bring her to work. And this is on a Sunday morning. And I felt horrible, right? I felt horrible for them, right? But here they are. The service is getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And they're raising the price up and up and up and up and up. And people are still paying the damn price. Now we're saying, it's like, hey, we're going to increase the value of what we're doing. We're going to make our trainers better. We're going to invest in our staff. We're going to invest in our equipment. We're going to do all this stuff, but we won't raise the price because I'm afraid. And so that part of it is I'm going to go over with everybody. So
I do love one other piece really quick with the consumer. There's this idea of the more you pay attention, right? Yeah. A lot of times when you get that Planet Fitness membership for $9.99, you're like, it's $120 a year, big deal. I'm not worried about it. Yeah, I'll cut it around to canceling it. But when you're paying, when you're at Lifetime and you're paying $199 a month, and then there's other stuff there, you're kind of like, I got to go to this thing. And there is an element of that happens. And, Cialdini talked about that a little bit too,
amazing,
right?
amazing. Yeah, if you haven't read Cialdini's work, you got to, yeah, for sure. Awesome. The second thing is I'm most excited about this because for the second part, this is digital work. We're going to talk about digital marketing, right? And I am bringing my ace in the hole to talk about this. My ace in the hole is the owner of my agency, and I haven't talked about it much, and I really haven't talked about it much because we have a waiting list like 30 gyms deep, and I've been instructed not to. I've been forbidden to talk about KISS marketing, and so that's honestly. Why we had to stop advertising KISS marketing, because like literally we were getting like complaints because we were just so busy, and people are like, I reached out to you and you're telling me I can't book an onboarding call for 4 weeks away. Are you kidding me? And I'm like, sorry, let's just wait. But anyway, so Will runs my agency, KISS Marketing, right? And we run digital marketing websites, Facebook ads, and we have a CRM for gyms. That's the only thing we do is we work with gyms on that. Some of our clients are some of the who's who in the fitness industry. Rick Mayo, we do all the marketing for Alloy. We do Mark Fisher's ads. We do Frank Nash's ads. We do. I'm trying to think who else people would know. There's someone else in there that I think people would know, but we're just basically the go-to agency for gyms that are doing what we're doing. And I built the agency because of the experience that I had for so many years of having bad experiences with agencies. And I wanted to create something that wasn't a bad experience. I wanted to create something that got results, that was created not by tech people, but by marketers, but then also had access to tech people as well, because I think you need both. I think you need good tech people, and I think you need good marketers. I think that's the combination of the two. And what I saw in the first, 17 years of owning a gym, I saw either a good tech person or I saw a good marketer that couldn't even return a phone call. So that's kind of the combo. And you would add customer service into that fold. But that's what we're trying to do. We saw a gap in the market. We saw a problem in the fitness industry for gyms. We are solving that 100%. And Will is the brains behind this entire organization. And he's yet to, you have not heard of him because he's been deep underground working and running ads and doing all this stuff. But we are building out a massive team in San Antonio, Texas. We have a whole corporate headquarters down there now. There's lots of good stuff going on, but I'm bringing Will up to Rhode Island to speak, and just hearing him alone will be worth the trip. But he's going to talk about websites. He's going to talk about digital marketing with Facebook and Google, and also what you should be doing in terms of what CRM to be using to organize all your leads and everything like that. So that's number 2.
All right. Yeah, I've actually spoken to Will. I've gotten the pleasure I spoke to him for a while, and yeah, he's super knowledgeable. He's got a lot of experience behind him. And so yeah, it's not just the tech guy. He knows his stuff. So Vince, the next one's big because I think so many gym owners really they get overwhelmed because they don't outsource maybe, right? A lot of things. And they get overwhelmed, and it really truly becomes the E-myth, right? Time management for gym owners.
Yeah. So this is probably, other than marketing, this is probably the question I get most is, how do I manage my time better? And the biggest thing that I'm going to talk about in this section is not really like how to manage your time in terms of like a system and like using like getting things done like that. I'm going to just shine the light on value activities, high value activities and low value activities, right? And I think that time management is solved by the gym owner deciding what are his highest and best value activities to the company, and then deciding what those are, and then spending as much time as possible on those things, and then delegating the other things that are of lower value activities. That is the kind of secret. A lot of times people say time management, and they want to talk about calendars, and they want to talk about the to-do list. They want to talk all this stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're doing low value work, it doesn't freaking matter. What matters most in time management is identifying the highest value activities that you can do for the company, figuring out what those are, and then spending as much time as possible doing those things.
I love it. We already have, like, from the last episode, I think you were talking about one of the number one thing, and I'm not even going to say it because they got to go listen to that last episode, that you think gym owners should be doing every single day from a time management perspective. And that's a high value activity, and it has to do with calling former members. So I'll just give them that. Cool, Vince. Well, one of the things that helps with time management is your employees, right? So having good employees. Talk to us about hiring trainers and what you're going to talk about.
Oh my God. So I do believe it's getting better, but there was a tough stretch there kind of post-COVID of hiring trainers where it was like almost impossible to find a new personal trainer. And the rules of the game kind of have changed a little bit. There was that whole adage of hire slow, fire fast. I believe that the fire fast thing is still something that you need to do. But the hire slow thing, not so much, right? I think that you don't have as much time as you used to, and we're finding that we're going to need to speed up the process. You still do your due diligence. You still, need to take them through multiple interviews and multiple steps and check references and all that. But you're just speeding up the process because it's just there's a lot of people looking for trainers, and there's not a lot of them out there. And to be honest, there's not like this is what I tell people. There's not this influx of people wanting to be personal trainers. Right? It's not like all of a sudden there's like, oh, I want to be a personal trainer. Like there's just that like it's just not out there. And so the pickings are kind of slim. So you need a good recruiting system. You need multiple methods, kind of like I talk about the marketing glove. Yep. Right, where you have multiple ways to generate leads. You kind of need what we call it the hiring octopus. Tip of the cap to one of our members, Dr. Ben Quist, who created the hiring octopus, and he actually created this octopus graphic. Nice. Yeah. Right, and what he uses octopus, which has 8 tentacles to find trainers. Right, so you can't just slap an ad on Indeed and think you're going to get a trainer. Right. You got to go to the local colleges. You got to go to the different places, to get. So we're going to talk about that hiring octopus and how you need multiple ways to find good staff. And hey, if you're like someone like Devin Gage, where you're opening up 3 locations and you got this monster location and you need a lot of pipeline of trainers, man, you got to have this down. If you got one gym and you got 1,000 square feet and you're never going to hire more than one trainer, it's not that huge of an issue. But if you want to grow, you're going to have to grow your staff. I wish you could just continue to grow revenue and profit and not grow with people, but that doesn't happen in the fitness industry. Like it's just not like, unless you want to have a ratio of 1 to 1,000, right? Which is like, I guess that's good margins, right? But you gotta know what you're doing. So we're going to talk about hiring in the new economy. What are the changes that you need to make in your hiring process to find staff?
Yeah, it's a big problem. I talked to somebody the other day, actually, from a big chain, and what they were saying was everybody thinks it's so easy. Like, why don't you just open your next location, the 45 minutes away? It's a big chain. So, but they're having such a tough time. And in general, the service industry is having a huge problem. I know in Indy, even in restaurants, forget it. Places aren't open on Sunday, Monday, Tuesdays now. They've closed for lunch. They don't have the people. Every restaurant I walk by says hiring, gyms hiring, so it is a huge problem. But so Vince, you talk about sales a lot on our episodes. So yes. What's the direction you're going to go with at the seminar?
Yeah. So remember, sales is like everything that happens after you generate a lead. So as soon as the minute someone opts in through your website, the minute someone comes and opts in for a podcast, the minute someone calls you, what actually happens? And that's the sales process. And we hit on this hard last week, right? When we talked about, or maybe it was the month before that, I can't remember, where you need this incubator and you need to have this one common place where everything goes, and then work your sales off of that. So a lot of times people look at, marketing and sales as kind of like the same thing, and they're two totally different things and two totally different mindsets. It doesn't mean the same person can't do both.
Yeah.
And most of the people listening to this probably need to be doing both the sales and the marketing side, but they must be approached with different methods and ways. So I'm going to talk about that a lot. I'm going to talk about the importance of a consultation. I believe if you're doing small group training and you're doing personal training and the memberships are 200, 300, 400 a month, hey, spending an hour with someone right off the bat and sitting down and talking about what they want to accomplish and their needs, that is probably one of the most important hours you could spend in a day, right? And I think a lot of people like just gloss over it and they like check a box. But there's a way to do this. Keith Cunningham has a great quote. It's not what you do, it's how you do it, right? So there's a lot of people that do consultations, right? But they're not all created equal. How you do a consultation, how you script your follow-up scripts, how you price your services, how you follow up, like all that stuff matters. And so we're gonna talk about how to master that side of it.
Very cool. I do want to say that part of what all these things that you're talking about, sometimes people can think, okay, it's for the beginning gym owner, which is absolutely not. And you might only see a few different things in here that you say, well, I'm really good at this, or I'm fine with the hiring, but I need better time with sales, or I need better time with time management. The what you're going to talk about next with the what's next, you've talked about it before on this, and I think it's a great formula because you have to understand where you are. And sometimes we want our dessert before we eat our dinner, right?
That's a great point.
And I think the way you put this with having kind of these, hey, have you done this? Have you done that? Okay, we're ready to move on to the next. So talk about what's next.
So I did this thing recently where I reached out to all of the members in SPF Mastermind. In addition to a lot of my friends that were like they weren't in the mastermind, but there are people that I kind of help with, as a friend, right? And a lot of these guys, they've got big. I want a friend that's got a gym down south, and his gym does over $2 million in like 4,000 square feet. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
But he's just, and so I asked all these people, what are their top 5 business problems? And I was shocked at the amount of people that put how to figure out what's next. And so actually, we have as I'm recording this, we have our mastermind coming up this weekend in Orlando. And I'm doing a full, 90-minute presentation on how to figure out what's next. Right. And so what I'll do is I'll take what I'm going to teach, and I'm going to also reteach it at this workshop. And teach you how to figure out what's next. And you're right about the whole dessert thing, right? If you're a newbie gym owner and you got 44 clients and your next thought is, how do I hire a CEO for my company? You are completely missing the point. And I've seen it. I've seen it happen. Or, you want to open up a second location and your first one isn't profitable, and it only, works when you're there. Like, it's just like, there's so many people that are putting the cart before the horse, but there are a lot of people that need, what I've done is create a map, right? Because I believe there is a map to follow. Now the map is like, it's almost like the map in the first 3 so I talk in stages, right? So I believe there's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. And actually I did a podcast on this, right?
Yep.
With you. And I think stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, it's pretty concrete on what you need to do next. Like, there's not like a lot of variables here. It's just like, no, go from stage 1 and get to stage 2, and then go from stage 2 and get to stage 3. The variable of what next, and a lot of the challenges come from what comes after stage 3, right? And so you have from some really successful people that are doing well and make a lot of money, and they don't understand and have clarity on what next. And so what I'll do is give a strategy on how to figure that out and what you need to do. But a lot of it comes back with, revisiting what's most valuable to you. A lot of it comes back to revisiting your beliefs, revisiting your values, and what are the things that are most important to you. And you can't make a decision on what next without factoring those things in. So
very cool. Yeah, I love that whole system that you have there. And I think it kind of really talk about clarity. It gives people clarity about, okay, cool. I really got to take a step back, or now's the time to kind of push forward. So you're going to finish up, well, just the number 7, not finish up with the whole thing, but something you talk about a ton on this podcast, and that is small group personal training. What do they have in store for that weekend?
Yeah, no, it's such an important topic, and it's a popular topic right now. It's probably the most profitable way, to run your business, but it's also the best way to differentiate yourself. But you got to get on it quickly because everyone's kind of jumping on it. And I feel like now, like everyone's doing it, and you got all the box gyms that want to do it, and everyone's doing it, right? So you kind of got to get on now, but the problem is not a lot of people are doing it well. And I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of gym owners that said, we did one-on-one and we do large group and we tried small group, but it didn't work. And the reality was what they did was they made it, and I talked about this in the podcast, they made it like a side dish. They're like, oh yeah, we'll do small group training too. Right. And the best gyms that I've seen, the most profitable ones, that is the steak of their business. The small group training is the steak. And I believe it can't work if it's a side dish. It doesn't work if it's a side dish. You can make a little extra money doing it, but it doesn't work to create a really, really stable, profitable business if it's a side dish. It's got to be the steak. It's got to be the thing you do. And the problem with this is that takes especially if you're doing large group or you're doing one-on-one, that takes a lot of changes, right? And so that's one of the things that at Mastermind, we had so many people coming to us saying, hey, help me make this change. Help me make this change. We actually had to hire a person on our staff in Mastermind just to help people make that change, just to coach them through how to do the programming, just to coach them through how to hire trainers, just to coach them through how do you communicate to members that you're doing this. Like there's a whole process to it. So I'll be discussing that whole process at the workshop.
Very cool. A reminder, it's 2 days. It's a Friday and Saturday, May 5th and May 6th. Now, Vince, I like what you did as well. Really sticking to a topic on each day. So day 1 is how to structure your business and time for maximum profits. And you're going to have Devin do a couple, speak with you. And then day 2 on Saturday is how to build a sales and marketing money machine that never stops. And Will is going to join you that day. Love what you've done. Do you want to say anything about kind of breaking up those days?
Yeah, I just figured out, no, I don't really. We're gonna ring the register on day 2, and day 1 we're gonna help you structure and organize your life. And you mentioned a really important word is clarity, and I think clarity is such an important thing to have as a business owner. And the problem is it's tough, right? With all the things flying around and all the things you're supposed to do and all the things you're reading, a lot of people don't have clarity. And so that's kind of really, if I almost like could map out a day for day 1, it's like, yeah, we're going to talk about time management, we're going to talk about business structure, but really it's all about clarity and how you can see things better. And then day 2 is all about, hey, how do we ring this register? How do we ensure we make the amount of money that we need? Because there's nothing more stressful than being strapped for cash, right? There's nothing more stressful than financial problems. All marriages are strained by financial problems. Stress and health is caused by financial problems. And to be honest with you, like the gym industry is not like an easy business. And you come from the bar business, right? In the restaurant industry, right? You know that those aren't easy businesses either. Well, the gym space is kind of up there. Right. Yeah. It's not an easy business. And I think some people underestimate the beast that we're actually doing. Now, there is a way to be successful. And the way to be successful is to learn these business skills. So I'll repeat, the reality of this is not an easy business. Hey, but here we are. This is what we're doing. This is what we're going to do. You can tap out or you can learn the things you need to learn to be successful. So I'll say that again. You can tap out, or you can learn the things you need to learn to be successful.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll teach you at the workshop.
So true. Bar business. I mean, not a lot of people are saying, hey, you know what? I'm not going to pay $9 for a Buffalo Trace at the bar. I'm going to have it at home. No, they want to go out and be with people, right? It doesn't work like that. Some people are, don't get me wrong. But with the gym industry, we have that. With the fitness industry, we have a lot of people think, hey man, I can do this on my own, or I can go on YouTube. I don't need a trainer or whatever. So you are competing, and there's not that many people. The saturation of people going to a gym, I think it's like what is it, like 15% of the people have a gym membership? And
Yeah, it's really ridiculously low. Yeah.
So, and we were finally getting some people back from after COVID and people that were scared, but yeah, it is not an easy venture. So, but Vince makes it easier. Perform Better Workshop, Business Secrets for Gym Owners, May 5th and 6th. There is an early bird special. It's going to be around
and
April
just
1st.
to clarify, it's a live workshop.
Yeah.
And it is in Providence, Rhode Island. So, if you're on the West Coast, you want to move on this. If you're in the East Coast, you can, drag your feet a little bit, but I wouldn't. It probably will sell out pretty quickly, based on the amount of buzz that is been.
Yeah, and they have some hotel. There's like a hotel pretty close. I think Chris always has a discount as well for a group. I'm pretty sure we'll have to check on that. But I remember last time I went up, he had a group rate for one of Mike's workshops. So we'll look into that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, great.
Vince, thanks for doing this, bud. We will talk to you next time. Enjoy the mastermind down in Orlando.
Wait. Yeah, we have a record crowd. We have over 90 people that will be in attendance. It's the biggest mastermind meeting we've ever had. And it's kind of like it's a weird one because the last meeting we had in Orlando was literally 5 days before COVID hit.
Wow.
5 days we got put. And so I have this memory of being in Orlando, and actually Vanessa and I were in Orlando with the kids at Disney, and we came home early and drove. We didn't fly. We drove home because I ain't getting on a plane right now.
Yeah.
Right. And so we drove literally 30 hours home, and on the phone, I'm getting these calls of members wanting to quit. And it's just it's a crazy, I have a feeling I might get emotional when I get up on stage to start it out because it's at the same hotel that we had last time. Wow. It's crazy. But it's now 3 years later. 3 years later, this is where we are. So
very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Vince. Well, good luck, and we'll talk to you next time.
You got it.